The next step is going to be our wireless. So I mentioned earlier that in the previous lab that I did, the wireless was a wireless controller that sat outside of the fabric, and we added it to Catalyst Center and then built it up as the fabric wireless controller. For these two fabrics, I am actually going to use this border node control plane as the wireless um, management or the wireless controller, as well as this fabric in a box. So we're going to install the wireless controller package on these guys. I couldn't of course do that in the previous video because they were 3850s and they didn't support it. So we have to download the package from Cisco so that we can push it through the process when we go to enable the wireless controller, and that does take some time. So I am going to come back over here to Catalyst Center, and we are going to go to our provision inventory. All of these guys are running 17.15.3 right now, and I'm actually going to throw an upgrade in here as well. So we're going to upgrade these via Catalyst Center. I don't know if I did that in the other video or not, but it's something worth showing in the process, the swim process. So I went ahead and downloaded 17.15.4. That at this current date and time is the start code. Again, should I do that? No, I should probably go look at the SDA matrix and try to stay more in line with the SDA matrix. But just to show it here, under Design, Image Repository, normally you can come in here and you will see all the different versions of code. It downloads those from Cisco, and you can click on the download and download them into Catalyst Center, mark them as starred. I don't have this hooked to a SmartNet account that has any entitlements to anything, so I can't do the download manually or through automatically through Catalyst Center. But what I can do is take the software that I do have and import an image. So if I choose a file here, oops, that's the WLC one. We don't want that. We want this guy. Oh, looks like I had already downloaded it and it doesn't like that name. So let me fix that here. Okay, let's try that again. Why didn't it still like it? Oh, I maybe need to delete it. There we go. So we will import that. And I'm going to pause because this takes some time. Just to show you, once that upload gets done, here it sits doing the import processing. I'm going to pause here until this finishes as well. And it finished right as I paused. So here that is done. Now when we go under our 9300, we should see a new option here for 17.15.4. It's verified. I can mark this as golden. And once it's tagged, I'll pause while I wait for that. We'll see our little gold star. Now if we go to provision inventory and we look at the compliance for these, what you're going to notice is, hey, we're running 17.15.3. Whoops, I did not mean to do that. Running 17.15.3, but we're non-compliant because of the software image here. So to rectify that, we can go in here and we can say I want to do Fabric 2 and Fabric 1 Edge. I'm sure I might be able to do them all, but I always hesitate when I've got something hanging off of another switch, right? So if this guy reboots and this guy's in the middle of upgrading, I'm sure Catalyst Center's smart enough to handle that, but I'm not going to push my luck there. So software image under actions, image update. I'll just call the task edges. Software distribution checks. Don't want to skip activation. I want both of these devices to get upgraded. I want to do it now, and I want to activate the software after distribution, and I'll initiate the flash cleanup. Go ahead and submit that. Done. If I click on image update status, I can see that these are going. Now I'm going to pause because this does take quite a while. But ultimately, if you click on it, you can see that it's distributing, pushing the software, and it goes through all of its steps here. But I'm going to pause. We'll look at this when it's done. Just on pause here for a second. You can see I just refreshed this, but we are 37 minutes in, both of them at 82%. If we look at this, right, the distribution got done successfully. The activation is just getting started here, so I'll go back on pause. It's been running this image activation here for 12 minutes, and then I'll wait till these finish, and we'll do the other one. Okay, so both of these finished successfully. If we go back to our provision inventory, we should see that they are now running 17.15.4. We will kick off the border and let that go. Yeah, 45 minutes or so is, ultimately what that took. Do it now. After distribution, initiate flash cleanup. And we will let that go. Okay, so that finished successfully here. You can kind of see 43, 41, 44. It ain't quick, but it works. A little bit of a squirrel with doing the upgrade, but now we can go back to wireless here and get that going. So provision, fabric sites. We'll start with our Fabric 1 site. Just going to click on what we had as border control. Turn on wireless. You'll notice here it says the software image is necessary for turning on the capability. After it's been distributed and activated, we can complete it. Do you want to proceed with importing the image manually? Okay. Choose the file. That is this guy right here. Import. And you'll notice here it does say it's going to take 10 to 15 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and pause this. Oh, there. Nope. Maybe I have the wrong version. Well, I didn't have the wrong version. None of the 17.15.4 versions of the wireless controller code were working for me, so I went ahead and rolled everything back to 17.15.3, and we'll try with that version. So again, back to Fabric Sites. Start with our first one. Turn on the wireless. Okay, here. Download the 17.15.3 wireless code. Import that. Schedule image installation now. Apply that. Test submitted. Now, I think this skipped a step. That image may have already been stored on the box, because what kicked off was not the update or the upload that we saw before, but the actual implementation of it. So I'm going to pause to let this finish because this does take quite a while, and we'll see if it came back. And in the meantime, in the background, I will go try to make sure that on Fabric 2 that image doesn't exist so that it goes through the full process. Okay, so we can see here that this finished. Again, another 30 minutes or close to 30 minutes of time, 25 minutes that it took. Now if I go back to my, whoops, that was the wrong spot, provision Fabric Sites, Fabric 1, what we'll notice, wireless controller is not enabled here yet. So I looked in the background as I said I would. That image was not local. This was the install. So all that happened there was similar to our swim process we just went through before. It pushed that code to the wireless controller and installed it and activated it. So now it's ready. When we click this button, we're going to see a different screen now, right? That initial push was what it was. In fact, while we start to work on that, I am going to come back over to Fabric 2 and kick off that process here. So again, we'll turn this on. We'll choose our file. We'll import it, apply it, and that'll run in the background for, the next 25 plus minutes. Whoops, what did I, oh yeah, it did kick off. Let's go verify that. Yep, so it's running. So now, under our Fabric sites for Fabric 1, as we go to enable the wireless controller here, it wants to know, what are we managing wireless for? And I think this might fail on us because we have not created any network profiles, but we want it for Fabric 1. Yep, only sites with wireless profiles. So we need to go build a wireless profile for this. So under Design, Network Settings, Wireless, we're going to build a SID that is just going to be an enterprise .1x SID. I will call this Fabric 1. I don't want to use the same SID in each fabric, which you can do, right? That's kind of the idea, is that you can be seamless across all of your sites with one basic network profile. In fact, maybe I will use the same. The more I think about it, I may just have to shut down radios manually when I'm doing my client tests, because I can't tell. These two APs sit in my rack right next to each other, and the network devices that we're going to connect to them, I'm not going to be able to steer them to one or the other. So, but we'll call this Corp Wireless. We'll leave everything enabled here. I'm not going to get into too much wireless config other than to make sure that this is indeed a network. I'm not going to do WPA3. I don't even know if the adapters in my devices support that. 8021X, we will configure our servers here, copy the same to accounting. So this is my ICE server, right? Catalyst Center knows about it because we configured it. And then AAA override does need to be on because we are going to be doing some VLAN returns on these. We'll leave all of this the default. No additions. Now here is the profile. So I will call this wireless. It'll be general. And this is going to be fabric. And that'll get rid of everything below. I'm going to associate the profile. Next. And save. So the manual way of doing that, if I come back into my network profiles here, so under design and network profiles, right, this automatically created the network profile for me as I created the SID. So here, if I go to design, network settings, wireless, now I have one SID created. This SID needs to be added to a network profile. That network profile needs to be assigned to sites. So if I go to network profiles, this got created when I created the SID. And you can see here we can assign it to a site. But if I edit this, I have a SID. It's my Corp Wireless. I'm telling them it's fabric. And that's pretty much all I need here. But now to assign it to a site, I am actually going to go in and assign it to both Fabric 1 and Fabric 2. And the reason I'm doing that is I'm going to use it for Fabric 2. I won't have to go through this process again. This kind of simulates, right, if you have multiple sites, I don't have to create a network profile for every site if I don't want to. Even though I'm going to have disparate wireless controllers, this SID is going to be standard and deployed across all of those sites. So now that this is assigned to the site, we can go back in here and we can tell our wireless controller what site it's going to own, right? What site it's going to manage wireless control or wireless for. I have no idea what this little guy is hanging out over here. Well, this whole screen is kind of locked up for me. I'll do a refresh quick. There we go. That was weird. So now I want all of Fabric 1, right? If there were multiple floors, just because it lives on floor 1, right? When we added this switch, it was only on floor 1. If there were multiple floors, I would, of course, check the whole site. This would typically be a building or a whole building, and all of the floors would be using this wireless controller. So we will choose that. This time it didn't give me the error because we have a profile. I'm not going to worry about that. And we are going to save that, and we are going to add it and deploy. So the previous step, the package was installed. Now we are going to essentially turn on the wireless controller, if you will. And I'll pause here for this to finish. Okay, so that finished. Now we can see some additional AAA stuff getting put in and wireless controller command. What we don't see here is a lot of the wireless config that's probably actually going to get deployed. You'll notice if you go back, you'll notice the little deal that came up that said the netconf yang information isn't there. So we don't see that, but we'll go ahead and deploy this, and we will watch it until it finishes, which I will probably pause to do so. Yep, modifying Fabric here, and our image installation for Fabric 2 here. Both of them are running. Okay, so that finished. We can see here now, if we go back to our provision inventory, what we will see under our provision deal here is this now shows switches and hubs wireless enabled, as opposed to what we'll see on Fabric 2 here eventually that says wireless enabled once we get through this process with it. The other thing, if we go to that IP address and we log in, we will see that we essentially have a 9800 wireless controller, right? This is the same view you would get with a 9800 standalone. And at this point, there we have it. So all of your normal configurations. Now, obviously, it's not great to come in here and start configuring things, right? We want Catalyst Center to do that. I use this screen in a lot of deployments just to verify things, right? If I'm setting up a brand new pair of controllers, prior to even going into the fabric, and I do HA via Catalyst Center, I'll come in and I'll look directly at the controller. If I'm not, this is obviously controller on the switch, but nonetheless, I'll look at that. Now, we do see our access point status. We've got one AP not joined. If I go to monitoring AP statistics and our join statistics, we can see that this Fabric 1 AP01, which it's got its name from a previous configuration. It didn't image upgrade and rebooted. It probably found this controller because it was previously configured for 10.204.01. So when this guy came online, it was trying to join already. I didn't have to go back and add the DHCP options in order for it to join. So what we'll do, just to make sure that, we understand that process, is once this guy comes back up, which kind of looks like he did if I go to access points, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to factory default him, and we'll see if he makes it back here. Theoretically, he should not. He shouldn't be able to know how to join this controller. We're going to have to go set up the DHCP scope options 43 to, make sure that when he comes online, he knows to reach out to this 10.204.01 as a controller. So I'm going to pause here. We'll let that guy come back up, and assuming it doesn't automatically figure out how to get here, we'll do the DHCP configuration. Okay, that guy's been rebooted for quite a while. He never came back. So here's our history of that AP. The disconnect reason is we cleared the config, and that was a while ago now, and it's never rejoined this controller. So um, now that it didn't, previously know about this controller and wasn't configured to go to this controller, it, much like me, just doesn't know what to do with its life. So it is over here. If we do show CDP neighbors on our switch, it's here. It's up. It's got an IP, but it's just doesn't know how to find the controller. So we will go to the DHCP server. We will add a simple option 43 and give it some direction and kick it on over here. So I talked in another video series a little more about, well, a bunch about different ways to handle DHCP on these wireless AP pools, using vendor class identifiers to, sort based on AP model what result they get and different things like that. In this case, I'm going to do a specific option 43, simple option 43 to push it back. So this is our AP group. Under the server options, we're going to configure, and we want option 43. And this has to be an ASCII value, a hexadecimal value of the controller IP prepended by F104 or 8, depending on, one controller, two controllers, whatever you're handing back. Kind of out of scope for us here, but we'll get that. And the one thing I'll say here, it's kind of annoying with Windows DHCP server, you cannot paste into this field. So here we are looking at F104. That means we're returning one controller. F108 would be 2, F112 would be 3, so on and so forth. This has been this way for years and years. 0A CC 0001. So that is a conversion. One of the things to remember here is this field. If there's a space at the end of it, it looks very weird, right? You end up having an indentation at the end. That would be more if you were doing the vendor class identifier stuff. And again, I've got another video on that, but 104.0ACC0001. We'll apply that. Now we're going to go reboot our access point. I don't have a console cable plugged into it so that we can watch it boot up and see that it gets its gets this data from DHCP, but nonetheless, we will pause here when I go to reboot that. So I realized I wasn't watching what I was doing. I defined this globally, and I did not mean to define this globally. I wanted to define it for my scope. So let's delete this. And we want Fabric 1 AP's scope options, configure option 43 here with the same settings. Apply that. And we'll give that some time. I rebooted the AP and it never came back, and I started digging in and figuring out what did I do wrong. It was that. So I went ahead and hooked a console cable up to this so that we could see it rebooted the AP. And I think we should be getting close to the part where we see it go into Discover and get the IP address of the controller here. We might have some quiet time on the video while this finishes booting up, but we should eventually see it get an IP address. Yep, wired 0 link up. We should see it get an IP and then go into Discovery and get the controller address from DHCP. It's going to bring up radios. Okay. The Ethernet port got its IP. We set it. We should see the Discovery kick off here. There we go. Got WLC IP address from 10.204.01. So it went ahead and joined the controller based on what we got back from DHCP. Now I'm going to do this a different way for Fabric 2. I'm going to use the plug and play solution with Catalyst Center, and that involves putting in a DNS entry so that the AP finds Catalyst Center. I don't know if this will let me scroll up, but we should see, maybe it didn't actually make it that far. This would be a DNS query for the controller. Did we see? Yes. That's not it. There is a PNP server that goes out as well, I think there. But we should see in the other one that we do a DNS resolution. I won't even put in the DHCP stuff. I'll just put in the DNS A record for the PNP. This one didn't show it because it got it from DHCP. But if we come back over here, chances are I've been logged out. Of course I have. And one of the reasons I want to show the PNP is in this scenario, right? The AP finds the controller. If I go look at my access points, I've got a name. I can't rename this AP from Catalyst Center now. It found the controller. It's here, but that I'm aware of, I have no way to go rename this from Catalyst Center. So here, I'm going to call this Fabric 1 AP01, put it back to what it was, just so that when it does show up in Catalyst Center, I know that it's there. To finish this off, if we go back to Catalyst Center and go to Provision Inventory, one thing that I like to do here also is when I'm working with multiple sites, multiple fabrics, you can zoom in and just look at the data for a specific fabric, right? The devices. Because this AP is not yet assigned to a site, if I were to zoom in, I would not see this AP. But right now, I need to resync this device, which I will kick off, and then I will pause until that's finished. And once that resync is finished, we'll notice here our Fabric 1 AP01 showed up. So that would have eventually happened on its own. There is a trap or something that gets sent from the device to Catalyst Center that forces that to show up. I'm just impatient, so I did a manual resync, and now we can see it's here. Once the AP is now showing up in Catalyst Center, I can provision this AP, which is the last step in the process. I'm going to tell it that it is on floor 1 of Fabric 1. And this is where maps come into play, right? If I assign it to floor 1, if I had a map for floor 1, it would automatically show up on that map so that I could place it. We'll go look at that once we're done here, even though I don't have a map. Not going to worry about RF profiles. Next, apply. And doing this is going to push the tags. So if I come back over to the wireless controller quick, I can see that there are no tags. So this AP is here, it's joined, it's just not doing anything at this point. The tags aren't even here. However, the WLAN is, but it's down because nothing has been provisioned to it yet. So again, once we kick this off, I'll pause here for this to finish. Should be able to deploy this now. You'll notice what it was doing, creating the tags in the background. That was very quick. I should have just let it finish, but nonetheless, we will watch our tasks. This normally does not take long to provision these APs, but I'm going to pause anyway. Okay, that was a success. Now, if we go back over to our controller, what we'll notice under the tags, it created these tags. The WLAN now should be up. I'm not sure why it's not. Have to look into that. And then this AP, oh, I know why it's not, because when it does that, the access point gets disassociated. It's going to bounce and it's going to come back. When it comes back, everything should come up here. I'm going to pause to wait for that. Anytime we assign tags to a wireless controller, even if it's obviously not through Catalyst Center, the AP disjoins and rejoins. So now it's back. And if we come back over to WLANs, for whatever reason, it is still down. It should not be. This should be up. So I figured out my mistake. I completely forgot a step in the process. So once all of this is done and we've provisioned the access point, or before, once the controller is built, we still have to go into our fabric under wireless SIDs, and we have to tell it which address pool to assign for these clients on this SID. Now, this SID, or this pool, the only reason it was available to us, if you recall, when we built these Anycast gateways, we checked the box on this pool for fabric-enabled wireless, which makes it available to assign to a wireless SID. So, completely my fault, doing this by the seat of my pants, and forgot a step. So here it's going to push a bunch of the fabric data for this wireless SID. I'll pause here for this to finish, and then we should see the SID in the air. Okay, that is finished. If I go back over here, we're going to look at our access points. It is there. Back over to our Windows box. Corp Wireless shows up. Okay, so now to get this connected on the wireless, again, eep teep, but if I was pushing a group policy, that would, obviously show up here on the device, but I discussed earlier how you have to create that by exporting the config. Here, the first thing we need to do is jump back over to ICE and configure a profile for the wireless authentication. We don't have anything set up for that yet. So we'll head back over to ICE and configure that up quick. Being that I've already done all of my certificate work and have everything ready, this should be no more than, in this case, we're going to create a new policy set below Why not? I assume wired is going to get used more than wireless. Maybe not. And this is going to be wireless.1x. Same thing here. And to make it quick and easy, we're pretty much going to duplicate that here. And use our same certificate server setup. And then we have to duplicate those rules that we built. Machine only. And this was going to be the each chaining result of user failed, machine succeeded, and the identity for my domain computers. And this time we need to return a different VLAN for these users, right? They were going into VLAN 12. So here we will call this wire or corp wireless VLAN, again based on name. It's what I named it. Save that. Duplicate above. User only. And here we just need to change this to that or statement. Again, we'll come back and change this around later when we do our security group tagging. And then again, duplicate above. And we'll call this user machine, meaning both succeeded. And again, we're giving them all the same result. All right, so that should do it for our ICE. Back on our machine, again, we need to go to the control panel and network and internet. And here is where we need to manually create our wireless network. So I'm going to choose set up a connection, manually connect to a wireless network, and our SID, just to make sure I get it right, is going to be corp_wireless. Corp wireless. And we can verify that over here, corp wireless. This is going to be .1x. Oops, WPA2 Enterprise, that was my bad. AES, and then on the next page, we want to change the connection settings. And here we are going to switch to TEAP. So this one I'm going to have to set up from scratch. We definitely want this user or computer. This didn't save through the reboot. On here, we need to check the lab. These two are both going to be eWLC. Again, here we're going to check this guy. And here we're going to check this guy and that guy. And here, again, we're going to check this guy. And pretty much the same. Well, not pretty much, it is the same. Okay. So now that that is configured, we should be able to go connect to this. And if everything is working, we got connected secured. So now we're connected to both. I will shut off this guy. So that we are Wi-Fi only. If we go back to our wireless controller, we should see we have one active client connected in a run state. I got an IP address on the proper VLAN. If we go back to ICE and look at our Radius live logs, we should now see that my wireless device, it's got to be in here somewhere because it authenticated correctly right here. So the user, now what you'll notice on an EAP, I didn't show this earlier, but in EAP-TEAP, I show both the user and the computer, the machine and the user, and that I hit the user machine policy, which put me in that VLAN. So that is looking good. So now we need to go back and finish the setup of the wireless controller in Fabric 2. Which now here we are going for all of Fabric 2. If you recall last time when I clicked next, it erred on me because we didn't have that network profile built, but we've built it and assigned it. We're going to see everything here. And we'll let this finish. And I'll pause here. And we'll deploy that. And wait for this to finish. Okay, that finished, and before I make the same rookie mistake I made earlier, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to set this pool. And I'll pause here. That got done. So now if we do a similar test, 10.2.12.01, we'll see our WLAN is there and enabled this time because I assigned the network to it. And we also see that we do have one access point joined. Now, I mentioned I was going to try to use plug and play for this access point. One of the things that I remember is when an access point is connected directly to the switch that the wireless controller is running on, sometimes it just, discovery doesn't even need to happen. It just shows up. Somehow the broadcast from the wireless access point gives it the controller IP and it finds it. So what I'll do here is I will attempt that with this AP, and if not, we will remove the DHCP scope from Fabric 1 and wipe it and go through that same process using plug and play there. So I am going to wipe this guy. I have not set, actually before I wipe it, let's go get the DHCP work or the DNS work done here. So over here, in our DNS server, we will add a record for PNP server, and that will point at our Catalyst Center, 10.199.0.11. So 10.199.0.11. And while we're here, just for fun, I will also add, this shouldn't be required, but lab 1 cat C. And did those add the reverse for those guys? Lab 1 cat C and PNP server, good. And theoretically, if I come back over to my wireless controller and I factory default this AP, and we wait for that guy to come back, we will see if it shows up in Catalyst Center under the plug and play process or whether it just rejoins this controller. My guess is it's just going to rejoin this controller, and we'll have to go back and do this on the AP for Fabric 1. So we'll pause and give that some time. Okay, so it's been a minute, and this guy's not showing back up on this controller, so let's go over to Catalyst Center. If we go to Provision Plug and Play, sure enough, we see that this guy is going through the plug and play process. So the nice thing about doing this way is that we can indeed name the AP in this process, where if it goes directly to the controller, we have to rename it on the controller by itself, on its own. So I'm going to pause and give this some time. Nope, it does say device is ready to be claimed, so I'm not going to give it some time. We are going to check on it. We're going to claim this device. Now I can name it Fabric 2 AP01. It's an AP. Here I'm going to assign it to my site. This process takes a little longer to go through this way, but it does ultimately. Missing. Oh, yep, got to assign the RF profile. Typical. Because this actually provisions the access point in that process too. So it takes a little longer to sit and watch it, but it does save some steps. So here, device claimed, and this will take some time. So state is still planned. We just have to sit and wait, and it does take some time. Eventually, this will go to provisioned. And ultimately in the background, right, this is going to tell it, hey, I know that the wireless controller for Fabric Site 2 or Fabric 2 is 10.212.0.1. It tells the AP to go over to that controller. Once it sees it on the controller, it will actually provision it on its own, and it will be up and ready to go. So I am going to pause this until we see that this actually goes to a provision state. And just while I'm waiting for that to get done here, I came over to the controller. Sure enough, it did push this AP over here. It currently has the default name yet, but the process on Catalyst Center is still running. We don't have a successful yet. It's still planned in device claim, so I will pause again. And as I'm still waiting for this, we can see now it says device claimed. I believe it said that before, still in planned state, but if I click on this, I can kind of see what it's doing. Certificate install in progress. I'll pause again. So this guy's still working on it, still connected over here. What I've noticed, the name didn't change. If I come back, I think this is going to fail. I've got an error here about a certificate issue. and I don't know if it's going to come back from this or if it'll eventually fail out. My guess is it'll eventually fail out. I have had good luck with this process, specifically in net new AP deployments. Um, the nice part about it is you can do more than one at a time, right? When you show up here and there's a whole list of APs, you can certainly come in and claim them all and configure them all at once, and push the config, and it'll set everything up for you, push them to the controller, and away it goes. Again, this is lab, and there's a lot of things on these APs that have gone on in the past. They've been joined, disjoined, so on and so forth. So even if this does fail, we'll get it to the point where it works. We'll manually provision it and get it there, manually name it. But typically this works very well, and I don't have issues with it. But I'll pause. Maybe it'll recover from this. So I decided while I wait to try this with Fabric APO1. So I went ahead and uh, factory defaulted it here on the controller. And then as it started to reboot, I shut the port to shut it off so that it didn't come back up. I removed the DHCP options on the server so that it could not find the controller that way. And now that it's down, I can also delete it from Catalyst Center here so that Catalyst Center doesn't have any previous knowledge of this device. I figure we'll give it a shot. I don't know whether, again, these APs have been through so much in the lab, they may not plug and play correctly, but we'll give it a shot here. Okay, so this AP is now booting back up. I somewhat wonder if maybe the old certificates for DNAC don't get deleted in that clear config, and that's why this is not working. Another point of note about this plug and play, this will only work with APs that are running iOS XE code. So if you have APs that are AirOS and you plug them in, they do not have the plug and play built in to the OS like the iOS XE does. So those will not plug and play. These guys, the iOS XE ones will. PNP, yep, here we go. Success method, DNS discovery, restart discovery timer. So theoretically, if we go back here, we do see this guy has now shown up. This one did air out, but I'll go ahead and give this a shot. We will claim it. We will say Fabric 1, APO1, assign it to our Fabric 1 site. Assign the RF profile. Claim it. So we're back to device claimed. Okay, so that was a total fail. I was not able to get plug and play to work with either of these APs again. They've kind of been through the ringer. I normally have pretty good luck with that process. Nonetheless, I pushed them both back to their relative controllers, provisioned them, so they should be good to go. We need to configure our lab 11102's wireless yet, so that's not, yep, a few network connections. Set up a connection, manually connect to a wireless network. To enterprise. Change the connection settings to deep. And what will be interesting here is, will it connect to its correct fabric, or will it connect to the other fabric? Because those APs are right side by side. So this should connect. This is the right device. Let's go shut off our Ethernet. So we got connected, but to which fabric? That's the question. So if we come back over to our wireless controllers, look at our clients. This is eUser on fabric 2, so he did connect to its correct fabric. And this guy is currently authenticating. There you go. Corporate user on that one. Crazy that they actually connected to the right access points. But nonetheless, that proves that our wireless connectivity is working. Okay, so I decided to try this again. This time, a new AP that hasn't really been in the lab. I held down the reset button. We can see performing a full factory reset. I don't know whether this will help us or not in the PNP process, but right after I did this, it started to boot. Before it even got a chance to bring up the Ethernet interface, I shut down the port, so it was offline. I am going to go ahead and no shut this now, let it boot up, and see if it joins PNP and goes through the process successfully here. So I'll pause while this boots up. Okay, we got a IP address here. Found our PNP. If I come back over here and go to our plug and play, we do see it's connecting, and we're just going to wait here. This should go into a status where it's ready to be claimed, which it did. Device is ready to be claimed, so now we are going to go ahead and claim this. I'm going to call it Fabric 1 PNP AP. We'll call it that. We'll assign it to floor 1 with the typical profile. And claim, yes. And it should be off to the races here. So over on the AP, haven't seen much change here. I'll pause the video. Over on DNA Center here, we can see device has been claimed. Onboarding will be triggered soon. Got a couple updates. Day 0 config requested and generated. Not much going on the AP. It kind of went into its old discovery mechanism, but it should fail out of that here shortly. PNP running in the background. Okay, we now change to an executing workflow, onboarding in progress. No change on the AP yet. Okay, we see here, it got the information about the controller. Send a discovery to the controller. Says it failed to join, but we'll give it a couple of minutes here. Trying to join again. Trying to join again. Discovery failed. Check 7 times. Releasing renew. And what else happened here? Looks like it restarted the network interface and got an IP address again and is starting discovery again. Here we go again. Looks like it joined. Did I miss it in here? Yep. Join request 2. Active part 1. Cap up state run. Join controller. Okay. Back over on Catalyst Center. Still executing workflow. If we look at the controller, and the access points, we should see it here. We do. And it's already got all of our tags. So it's up and running. It's good to go. We'll give Catalyst Center a minute to see if it changes the workflow here. While we wait for that, nothing else really going on the controller here, or on the AP here. It's been pretty quiet. And then here we are. So it went into a provision state and it's good. If we go to provision inventory, we see the AP here and everything is all set correctly. So that's how it's supposed to work. That's how it normally works. Like I said, takes a little bit of time. I don't know what all the failures in attempting to join are about with the AP. It obviously got over them and got past them and joined up and configured properly. So